What happens when a struggling screenwriter imagines a killer in the back of a taxi and the idea lands in the hands of a director obsessed with control and realism? Out of that collision came a film about a cab driver with big dreams, trapped in his own city, and a contract killer who treats murder like routine business. So what happened behind the scenes? Let's find out. This is the history of Collateral.
I got another DOA.
He's already killed witnesses. He's coming to kill you.
As a teenager, Stuart Beattie was riding home from Sydney Airport when a thought hit him. What if a passenger sitting behind you was a killer and you didn't know it? What if he just started talking to you, calm, polite, casual, and you trusted him? That was the spark. He wrote a short treatment called The Last Domino. It wasn't a finished script or movie, more like a sharp hook with teeth. At the time, Beattie was waiting tables. He ran into Julie Richardson, someone he had met in the UCLA screenwriting extension course. She was now producing and looking for thrillers, so he pitched her The Last Domino. She liked it. Her boss, Frank Darabont, liked it too. So a meeting was set up at HBO under the Edge City banner, which was created to make low-budget genre films for the network. But HBO passed, and that could have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Beattie pushed his agent to get the script to DreamWorks. Executive Mark Haynes read it over a weekend, and the studio bought it the following week. Before Michael Mann came on board, the project moved around. It was shown to directors including Spike Lee, Martin Scorsese, and Steven Spielberg, but they all passed. So the project was offered to Michael Mann. When he stepped in, he didn't just sign on, he reshaped it. One of the main reasons he connected with the script was its initial structure. He described it as feeling like a third act of a traditional drama. There was also a major decision that changed the film's DNA. The setting moved to Los Angeles, and not just as a backdrop. Mann had already wanted to shoot an intense movie at night in LA, but he never received a script good enough. This made the city more than a backdrop, it made it into a character. And then came the rewrite. Mann later said the screenplay had beautiful bones, but he had to rewrite it. The movie's music came from a mix of sources rather than one single composer. James Newton Howard wrote the main score with additional music by Antonio Pinto and Tom Rothrock. The film used a blend of score and existing tracks, and during editing, Michael Mann kept swapping music in and out while the scenes were being adjusted. The goal was to keep the emotional tone consistent as the film changed in the edit. The official soundtrack album was released in August 2004. Now, the movie didn't start with the cast we eventually got. At one point, the lead pairing being talked about was Russell Crowe and Adam Sandler. Even Stuart Beattie, the writer, had his own dream choices. He wanted Robert De Niro as Max and Al Pacino as Vincent. The studio refused, pushing for a younger duo. Eventually, Tom Cruise was cast as Vincent and Jamie Foxx became Max. The supporting roles shifted too, and not in a small way. Val Kilmer was initially cast as the detective pursuing the case, but pulled out before filming began. So Mark Ruffalo took over that role. The rest of the cast included stars like Jada Pinkett Smith, Peter Berg, and Javier Bardem. Behind the scenes, Michael Mann had a very specific idea of who Vincent was, not just on screen, but as a person who could walk through the world and leave no trace. So Tom Cruise had to test the idea in real life by making FedEx deliveries in a crowded Los Angeles market without anyone noticing him. The goal was simple: to look normal, move fast, and vanish with no one seeing him. To lock in the characters, Mann also wrote background documents for Vincent and Max. Cruise said Mann designed Vincent's every detail, from his hair color to his clothing style. And Mann didn't stop there. He and Cruise worked out a detailed backstory for Vincent, even though almost none of it is said in the movie. Their backstory included ideas like Vincent spending part of his childhood in a foster home and going back to public school at around the age 11 and having an abusive father. For the action work, Mick Gould was hired to train Tom Cruise, including teaching him to fire live rounds, so the calm, controlled look on screen had real practice behind it. Locations weren't always an easy win either. The parking garage rooftop used in the film belongs to the Secret Service, and the production had to work hard to convince them to allow filming. Some other scenes were built with tight control. The train sequence was shot with green screen background because Mann had precise ideas about what should be visible through the windows. For the car chasing training, Foxx prepared by racing a Ford Crown Victoria at Willow Springs Raceway in the Mojave Desert. And then there's the one on-set incident that became part of the legend. In the behind the scenes, Jamie Foxx talks about making a mistake during a take and driving headfirst into a Mercedes with Tom Cruise in the back seat. Cruise played along, and Foxx said that the crew rushed to check if Tom Cruise was okay first. Now, one of the most precise stunts involved the scene where Vincent throws the body out of the window and it lands on the taxi. The production managed to do this by dropping a wired dummy from roughly 3 stories up so the head would strike the windshield at one exact point and fracture the glass in a controlled, repeatable way, because the impact pattern had to match the angle and force designed for the shot. Once they achieved the take, the production kept the vehicle in the exact damaged state so continuity would remain consistent for the scenes that followed. And then you've got the taxi itself. The production didn't only use one cab, they had 17 of them, and every single one was built with the same interior. One version had the motor removed and a towing system installed with air suspension in the front and rear that allowed the crew to load the engine bay with cameras and operators to shoot straight through the windshield into the back seat, capturing both Cruise and Foxx in one frame. So behind the camera, the movie wasn't just crafted, it was tested.
Max, I do this for a living!
When the movie opened in early August 2004, it brought in around $24 million. By the end of its run, the film had already earned around $220 million worldwide. Critically, the response leaned positive. Many reviews praised the visual style and highlighted Tom Cruise's turn as a cold, controlled villain. It was also described as stylish, compelling, and rooted in classic noir tradition while still feeling modern. Others emphasized that the story plays almost like a long conversation between two men trapped together, and that this structure was part of what made the movie work. The film also picked up major industry attention, including a Best Director award from the National Board of Review. It also won the BAFTA for cinematography, naming both Dion Beebe and Paul Cameron. At the Academy Awards, it received a nomination for film editing. So the picture that formed was clear. Audiences showed up, the industry noticed, and the film quickly earned a reputation as sharp genre filmmaking built on craft. Once the theatrical run ended, the movie quickly moved into living rooms. The first home release hit in December 2004. A Blu-ray edition was released in 2010 through Paramount Home Entertainment. A 4K Ultra HD edition was released in 2020. For fans who want to add the movie to their collection, I have added a link in the description below, and there should be a card popping up on screen to help you check it out.
What's going with my work? Gotta roll with it.
Over time, the movie has become a reference point for nighttime digital filmmaking. It is treated as a turning point in Michael Mann's move into high definition, with the look of the Los Angeles night described as having a kind of soft, painterly delicacy that older methods didn't capture the same way. The movie also built a reputation for craft-driven realism, with the overall effect tied to the process. And then you've got Tom Cruise's performance as a cold villain that is repeatedly singled out as part of why the film stuck around. Then you've got the pop culture thread that's been discussed over the years. Jason Statham appeared briefly at the start of the movie, credited as Airport Man. Over the years, fans ran with the idea that this character is Frank Martin from The Transporter, though this has never been confirmed. In a later interview, Jason Statham did say that he would have done the cameo for free because of his admiration for Michael Mann, but he had to take minimum payment due to SAG regulations. As for any sequels, there has been talk in the past regarding them, but nothing has come to fruition.
Adapt.
Get your hands in the air!
That's funny coming from you.
For me, this is one of Tom Cruise's best performances. He used his confidence, presence, and quick timing in his dialogue to turn Vincent into something controlled and dangerous. He's calm, stylish, and completely lethal. And across from him, you've got Jamie Foxx, who's fantastic in the role of Max. And the whole movie works because of the tension between those two characters. Add the locations and the way the film moves through different parts of the city, and it gives the whole thing a sense of motion that keeps the tension alive. In my opinion, Collateral is an utter superb thriller, tight, stylish, intense, and still one of the coolest crime films of the 2000s. And we're not done yet. Next time, we dive into another classic movie. Until then, why don't you check out our previous video on Payback?
Not many men know what their life's worth.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.